welcome to another episode of LV Connect. I'm here with Matt, and this is a little different. I'm interviewing him now. The past two times he's interviewed me, we talked about mindset, we talked about manifestation and how those go together. But today...
And now the tables turn.
Yes, they have. And I'm going to ask a certain amount of questions on the foundation and how important it is for a young agent or a new agent to have a great supporting team and a great cast of people that make everything happen. I want to jump right into it. And my first topic/question is the agent foundation. So how important is it for an agent to have a well-rounded foundation in an industry where things are just constantly changing?
Yeah, that's a great question, and you're right. I mean, not only is this industry constantly changing, you're having to deal with a lot of different personalities, both on the agent side with other agents that we work with, and your clients.
Yep.
So having a foundation, and I think there's multiple levels to a foundation that we can talk about, but I think for your question specifically for like a new agent, is coming in and having the understanding that this is a business and you have to treat it like a business. So foundation level, you've got to make sure that you are treating this like a business, which means you have a daily routine set. You have a foundation of people that you can reach out to ask questions and get the support and encouragement that you need. Because let's be honest, it's not hard to get your real estate license.
No.
Unfortunately, and I think that's something that should change from an industry standpoint, but that's a completely different discussion. So you get a lot of people who get enticed by the amount of income that you can earn in real estate, but they don't have that foundation.
Yeah.
Or they go to brokerages who, a lot of these, and I don't want to say any names, but some of these big box brokerages, it's almost like throwing spaghetti against the wall. Let's see what sticks.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily give a strong foundation to support a new agent.
And I came from that.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So you're a prime example of it.
Yeah. And I think I love what you said about anyone can get their real estate license. I was actually just speaking on this. We went out to dinner the last couple nights ago with a bunch of agents. And, after the fact, I was speaking on, anyone can get their license, but can they execute?
Absolutely.
Can they do the extra things that sets them apart?
Yeah.
Anyone can get it. I was like, anyone can get any license, any certification. It's just like going to school and taking a test.
Yep.
But can you really execute? And it's gonna lead into my next thing, which is the lacking ability of agents.
Yeah.
So what do you think is a big lacking trait that you think agents struggle to either adapt to or struggle to take for their own and learn from it?
Yeah. So again, let's go back to how easy it is to get into real estate. And then let's go back to my earlier comment too about people not treating this like a business.
Yeah.
It's one thing to get your license, but then it's another thing to understand the sales process, because we are salespeople.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's a true sales position.
Yep. Absolutely.
And if you don't have that background, you're going to struggle. If you've never run your own business, you're going to struggle, because while you have the umbrella of the brokerage, you are your own boss. So it's not us telling you what to do, when to do, and how to do it. Now we can guide you and encourage you, but it's not like we're sitting there and making you pick up the phone. You have to do that. So I think from an agent standpoint, that's one of the big misses that a lot of new agents don't really understand. They see that the flash with social media, going to these $1 million properties and how much income you can earn, but they don't stop and say, you know what, I need a business plan. First and foremost, for new agents, you've got to sit down and figure out, what do you want to achieve?
Yeah. Then
you got to figure out how you're going to achieve that, and then break it down into smaller pieces so that you can actually be successful here.
I think that is what you said is a perfect example on a lot of things that I think my generation, the younger generations deal with. Is we're blinded by social media. We're blinded by these things of thinking that it's just, it's as simple as getting a license and that's it. Just because you're licensed, oh, you're great, you're fine. And it's not true. And it's like with anything. anyone could be on a basketball team, football team, anyone could be on anything in the world, but not be the best.
Yeah.
Just because you're there doesn't mean that you're going to be the top. You have to put in those steps, the foundation. You got to put in the work. And, that's why I got my license at such a young age, because I just knew that I wanted to build a foundation. So when I'm in my, late 20s, things are going to, be thriving for me. That's how I think.
Yeah.
And that's how I want to, build my business. And it really leads perfect into my next question, which I have really endured since being at Living Vogue, and it's team importance.
Sure.
And how important is it, do you think, a well-balanced team, or, having a broker like yourself, how important is that for a new agent or even a younger agent to have accessible?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I mean, culture for us is a big thing.
Yep.
And it's not just accessibility to myself, Mark, our founder, and also, broker as well, and then the other support staff that we have, but other agents as well. We want to make sure that we have a culture of success, a culture that collaborates. We don't want any agent in here that's just in it for themselves and not willing to answer questions. That's why we have some of our internal chat groups. So if you can't get a hold of me, there's another avenue for an agent to get a question answered.
Yep.
So yeah, team is huge. And does that mean, okay, because a lot of people, when they think real estate and they think teams, they think, okay, there's this team leader, and then they've got their, other real estate agents. You got a buyer agent, you got a seller's agent, you got somebody that does transactional stuff. That in itself, that has its own place as well. But I think in the broader sense of things, a brokerage needs to make sure that it keeps the culture right, so that if somebody comes in and they're not on a team, because not everybody needs to be on a team, they just need a few questions here and there. They need some guidance and some support. So you need to have a brokerage that supports that and provides that to their agents. So I think it's huge. It definitely makes a big difference. We've seen it here in the success of agents.
It's definitely been huge for me, coming from a different situation and then coming into this culture, knowing this is what I really wanted and who I wanted to be around. And in a span of a short amount of time, I've seen much more success than I've had in the short time I've been here so far than I did the whole combined time I was at, this different situation before. And I think that's so huge. It just shows that this works.
Yeah.
And not only that it works, but it's a great situation and a great atmosphere to be around. It's very welcoming. And
you're also putting in the work, right? I mean, you're doing floor time. You're meeting with a mentor to go on like the inspections that you've done. You're following up with leads.
I'm doing all of the LV portal.
Yeah, you're doing all the training.
I got all my notes in here.
Yep. And I can tell you, if you look at it as far as the number of agents that are, let's just talk about Florida, you hear about the 80-20 rule. I think in real estate, it's really like the 90-10 rule is, 10% of the agents are selling 90% of the homes. And when you look at why that is there's only a small percentage of people who are willing to put in the work. When you're brand new, you should be door knocking, and less than 1% of agents door knock.
Yeah.
Cold calling, it's probably less than 5%. I don't know the exact number. And the only reason that one's higher is because a lot of these big box brokerages make their new agents cold call. They don't want to.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if you're forced to make those calls, what's the quality of the call?
Yeah.
What's the outcome going to be?
Yeah.
You're going to have slim to none, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you also referred to the obligation you have as a broker or the brokers here. And it leads me into my next thing, which is broker obligation.
Sure.
So in your perspective as a very successful broker as yourself and someone
I'm
who
trying.
For me it's been very impactful, and I think from my perspective it's one of the most important things here. So what do you think are some obligations that a broker or brokers should have or put towards their new agents or just agents in general?
Oh, good question. So I think there's a couple things. One is you see a lot of brokers who are kind of out of touch with the market. So we need to make sure, obviously, we're staying on top of that. One of those ways is actually to still be active in real estate. So while production-wise I don't do nearly as much as I may have in the past, I still want to make sure that my, we call it lips and shoe leather, right? I'm still out there getting leads. I'm still out there talking to clients. I'm showing properties. I'm actually got my pulse or my finger on the pulse of real estate, right? And I think that's an important thing versus somebody who just sits back, reads some articles, and is just saying, hey, you guys go do the work and, let me get my percentage.
It's kind of just the guy, you're not the guy sitting back in the chair directing everything. You're out in the field with them.
And there's got to be a balance with that too.
Yeah,
though.
absolutely.
Because if I have too much productivity in real estate, then I don't have time to answer phone calls and also have a little bit of work-life balance.
Yeah, and some time for some fun.
Yes,
for me
absolutely.
Time. And Jackson, of course.
Yep, my boy.
So, talking a bit about you being a successful broker, and from my perspective and experience so far, it's been a joy to have a relationship like that with a broker. I didn't have that before. I didn't even know my brokers. It was a different,
I hear that a lot.
Different situation, but it's been very wholesome because I like to take pieces from everybody and create my own. And I've taken a lot of pieces from you because, you've shown in, I think it's 8 years that you've been in the industry. You're a successful broker. You still do not as much volume as you did before, but you're still out there. You're still busting your,
you can
and
say it.
busting your ass, but yet still having the time for yourself. You're still taking care of yourself. You're living the life you want to live.
Yeah.
I could look up to that more than I've looked up to anyone else in the real estate industry that I've ever had so far. And that's important for someone like me, younger, newer agent, to have around. And I want to ask about your personal experience for you. From previously being an agent yourself, before you transitioned into this leader role where you're balancing out now, helping people and being, still doing volume.
Yeah.
For what traits and habits did you implement to get to where you are today, to become a broker, to balance those things out and to, do what you do?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you asked that because I think it is important to have some, people talk about work-life balance, and I don't think there's ever balance. It's always imbalance. But you have to have the two in there somewhere, and you've got to enjoy life. And that's, one reason why, like with the brokerage itself, which we can talk about more, but, I always wanted to go into a place where I felt like it was me. That when I walked in there, I felt good about going into work. So that's an important aspect of anything that I've done. But I think what has helped me get to where I am is I've always had a sales position. So I've always worked with people. I've always learned how to cater to certain people and shift the way that I act, the way that I talk. I'm not fake by any means, but there's just, people have different personalities, and you have to shift yourself to make sure that you fit right alongside with that person, and you meet their needs. You find out exactly what their goals are. So I think that's a unique trait. That's something that doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of agents also get scared about that. So they start dealing with all these different personalities. They don't know how to kind of mold themselves into it, and they get very defensive or they shut down. And, if anybody's experiencing that, I'd say stay the course. There were plenty of times. So even though I say, I've been in sales my whole life and, I've owned my own business, actually, I have never had a normal 9 to 5.
Wow.
So I've always owned my own businesses. So obviously that helps. But there have been plenty of times in my career when I'm having a conversation with somebody, and I kid you not, I feel like there's a little Matt sitting outside here doing like, shut up. You've already lost them. You've ruined the sale. They're not going to do anything. Just stop talking and leave. There's been plenty of those conversations I've had with myself.
Yeah.
But I didn't allow that to stop me.
Yep.
And I think people, when things like that happen, they clam up and they say, this just isn't for me. Fail. It's okay to fail, but fail fast and get back up.
Yeah, absolutely. I even in my past situation, I found myself repeating things and then wasn't getting any results. I was putting in all of the work that I even put in now, but it's just a different situation, different people, better things that I have here. And I wasn't getting anywhere, but I never gave up.
Yeah.
And I kept going. And I found my home here. And I know I'm going to do crazy things.
You know, here's the nice thing about the age that we live in now. Regardless of who's around you, now obviously having a great support system, having a team, having, you know, people that are going to lift you up, by all means, find it. But if you don't have that, we've got technology now where there are industry leaders that you can watch videos on. There's books that you can read, you know, things that will fill you and shorten your education time. You know, because, you know, back in the day, obviously it was a lot harder. You didn't have access to things like this to find out, okay, what works in this industry? You know, what's the tried and true ways that people have been successful? Now it's right at our fingertips.
We have it pretty simple.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't around back then, but knowing that the whole MLS used to be in a giant book, basically, just all the listings. Man, you're talking about overthinking and being stressed out now. Oh man, I couldn't imagine being in this age and then going back. Oh man, that's
the reality is, if you want to be successful, all the tools and all the resources are out there for you.
Absolutely.
You just have to take charge and devote time to it. And you know, we talked earlier about like business plans and a foundation. Daily method of operations. I talk about this a lot with new agents. Is you need to figure out what your DMO is. You know, for me, you know, I've got things from when I'm working out to when I'm having my meals. I had that all mapped out because I knew I needed to. If I didn't do that, I didn't have somebody be like, "Hey, Matt, did you make your calls today?" You know, it'd be on me.
Yeah.
And if I'm sitting at home and I'm expecting to make, you know, 100 phone calls, well, the laundry hasn't been done yet. I need to do this, need to do that. It's so easy to get distracted.
Yeah.
So that daily method of operation, sticking to it, and building those habits is going to be key.
And I feel at the end of the day, even with having a great team, like what we were just saying, it is up to you.
Yeah.
It's your business.
100%.
It's your business, my business. Jake has his business.
Yep.
Everyone has their business. It's up to them to implement those things and become who they really want to become. And I wanna end it off with Living Vogue Real Estate, with what we have here as a culture, a team, and what we stand for. You know, without giving away any details to our competitors, right? But what are some things that Living Vogue offers that you believe that other brokerages don't, that stand out the most? Just to end it off on that.
Yeah, so let me start by just saying I think a lot of people and agents think that, oh, you have to belong to, you know, a big name brand. Yeah. And obviously the big name brands want you to believe that too. The reality is we all have access to the same resources. So it's the same MLS. It gets broadcast to all the big name real estate websites out there. The technology and all that stuff. I mean, it's a level playing field now.
Yeah.
So what I think what separates us not only is, you know, our showrooms, right? And we call them showrooms, not offices, because we wanted to create a different feel, not only for our agents, but our clients as well. So for our agents, we want them walking into a place where like, wow, this is different. You know, our motto is it's not your father's real estate company, and it's absolutely true. It's completely different than anything else that anyone has seen, at least in the Sarasota area or in the Gulf Coast. So, and I think that part of it, because to me, there's always a well-being aspect of work, right? And being able to walk into a place where you feel good going into, you like the people that are there, they're supportive, that not only supports a strong business, but just a strong well-being or sense of well-being. And I think that's important for overall success and health in life and longevity.
Yep.
You know, so that's one of the things. The culture, of course, I mentioned that earlier. Having that team that's collaborative. You have questions, you've got somewhere to go to. And then just having things like this. Yeah. You know, having a nice recording studio where you can go in and record whatever you want. Yeah, so there's a lot of things. But I think ultimately we impact the senses, a lot different than other brokerages. So when your clients come in, whether they're buying a $100,000 property or a $100 million property, they're going to be treated like a luxury client. They want a glass of champagne, we've got champagne waiting for them.
Yeah.
Coffee, whatever you want. And for our agents, same kind of feel.
I think it's a lot like just people in general. If you go to a higher end restaurant, you get that feeling. You're like, oh, I feel elevated, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you go to anywhere that's, not your typical place, you feel on that level.
Mm-hmm.
You feel that worth. And I think and I know that's what Living Vogue brings. From my experience being at a, older brokerage or, a bigger one,
Yeah.
I didn't feel prioritized.
Mm-hmm.
And I there's no doubt I feel that here. And
Good.
it's so
Good.
important for me, and even as a younger agent, to feel that, because at the end of the day, my team's going to matter. At the end of the day, this area and this atmosphere matters. But it matters because I want to feel pushed towards building my business.
Good.
And that's important. And I can't wait to, live this future, coming ahead. And I'm really excited to do this.
We're excited for your success.
This is going to be you'll see some crazy stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah. Again, it comes down to work.
Yep.
Right? Put in the work and treat it like a business. It'll pay you like a business. You treat it like a hobby, it's going to pay you like a hobby.
Well, on that note, that's all we have for today. And it's been a great episode. I'm sure we'll be back with some more great things. And we'll see you next time.
Yep. Thank you, Carlo. See you guys.